ever give you VIP rooms on accident or on purpose just because?
Yeah, a lot of people must have that card because they don't honor it anywhere.
His name has it.
Did you hear about
Or
that
give you
guy?
VIP rooms on accident or on purpose just because the YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people must have that card.
Yeah, it's just a delay on the stream.
I got 6 o'clock. Is the regular recorder going? All right. You still with us, Ann?
Yep, I got you.
All right. Is there anybody else trying to get in? Sir? No? All right. Well, I'll go ahead. Since we have a quorum, I'll go ahead and call to order the Plainview City Council meeting this Tuesday, December 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Welcome, everybody. All one of you. Glad to have you here. And those hopefully joining by Zoom. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance, open prayer, reading, and expression of thought by Steve, Councilmember Gibson.
I please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we're indeed thankful for this opportunity to have to meet and experience these our civic responsibilities. We're thankful for the people of Pleasant View and that they put their trust in us. Help us to make wise decisions. Father, we're thankful for the snow and moisture that we've been receiving. Bless us with more. Help those who have to travel in it to be safe. We're thankful for the public works and the police department and fire department that are always ready to help us be watchful with them as these are slick and dangerous times. Father, protect our community. Help us to watch out for each other and to help keep Satan's influence and those that are wanting to do us harm. Help us to keep them out of our community. Help us to live righteously so we can receive these blessings. And we're thankful for the mayor and city staff and all they do. And we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Steve.
Item B is declaration of conflicts of interest. Has council had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any conflicts? All right, wonderful, great. Item 1C, public comments, questions for the mayor, city council. Anybody from the public wish to address us? Seeing none, we'll move to item 2, consent items, bills of Pleasant View City. To be.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we pay the bills.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Gibson, second by Marriott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Too many boards and stuff that I voted. All right. Item 3, the audit report. Present the audit report from fiscal year ending June 2022. Katie. Welcome.
Thank you. See, the big crowd came out to all hear all about your audit and all the fun stuff.
Exciting meeting.
I know.
The crowd would come out if there was negatives on it.
That's true, and there isn't. So I guess it's a good thing there's no crowd. Less people for me to talk to, so I'm fine with that. So as you can see in front of you, there are 2 different little packets, papers. One's just a couple of papers stapled together, and the other one's like an actual binder packet. This first one is our management letter. So this isn't actually something that is sent in for the state audit report. It's just something for city council to see. The biggest thing that I would like to point out is just on the first page, there's an indented area, and this is just talking about estimates. So on your statements, the estimates are anything depreciated value. We just don't know, how long something's actually going to last. So sometimes that causes some differences you don't actually foresee coming about in future different statements. And then the other one is just the developer contributions. It's the same thing. They're just kind of estimating how much something actually costs and what it would be like on the books. The only other thing that I'd like to point out in this little packet, if you flip a couple of pages, you'll see our journal entries that we do. This is just something that we have to provide when we're doing our audit to show kind of what we're suggesting as entries. A lot of these just have to do with the differences for the pension this year. There was a lot of adjustments needed because they switched from a liability to an asset, pension-wise. And it was overall the same for the whole entire state. So every city, district, anything that was governmental saw that kind of change. And then the other thing is we have new lease laws, which I'll get into a little bit later, but that caused quite a few entries because of that too. So I'll actually just go ahead and jump into the big packet that we have. So if you want to flip to page 1, this is our independent auditors report. The most important paragraph or 2 are the first 2 in the opinions. I just like to point out in the second one, our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. This just means that you got a good audit. So there's nothing that we had to worry about really when we're going through it. And it was pretty clean. I normally would have you flip to the other 2 reports we have in the back, but there aren't any findings this year. And so I'm not going to worry about going to those. I'll just talk about them real quick. So there's one report about internal controls. So we do some kind of review of internal controls, but we're not actually testing internal controls. But we had no findings there. So everything's running pretty smoothly. Checks and balances are working great. And then the other one is just about state compliance. And Lori and I had a fun discussion about the state and their compliance rules and everything. But there weren't any issues when I was checking through the chapter 1 and chapter 2 test work that we have to do. And the difference just is chapter 2 has to be done every 3 years. Chapter 1's done every year. And we had no issues when we were looking through any of that or any findings or anything. The next page I'd like to go to is, let's see, page 52. It's pretty much almost completely near the back. So just real quick, this is the budget to actual for the general fund. There's only a couple of things that I would like to point out here for revenues. If you look at the intergovernmental in the actual column, as you can see, the actual amount was quite a bit less than the budgeted amount at the end of the year. This is what it looks like. The RDA just wasn't as high as what everyone would budgeted for, thought it would be. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of revenues actually came in above budget, which is pretty great. That means you're getting a little bit more money than you were thinking. And then overall, if you look in the actual column at the bottom, you'll see that you had just a little bit over 6 million in revenues coming in through the general fund. And so if you flip to the next page, page 53, this is our expenditures for the general fund. There's just a couple of pretty large differences that I would like to point out. So if you're looking yet again at the actual column, in the legislative general government, the top line, this one went down by $678,000 in expenditures. This is because in the previous year, you had a lot of CARES money come in. And so you gave people kind of bonuses and incentives and that kind of stuff at that time. And that just wasn't the same for this year. The other ones that I would like to point out, if you look at the public safety police department, This number in the actual column went up by 229,000. There have been some more police officers hired, and overall between hiring new police officers and then all the equipment that goes along with that, that's kind of where you're seeing the large difference there. And then the other one I would just like to point out is in the public works streets. This one went down by $381,000. There's just less streets work being done at this time. And this just means like Class C roads expenses and that kind of stuff. It's being recognized a little bit different. So I would say probably next year we'll see kind of an increase here. Overall, if you look towards the bottom of the page in the excess deficiencies of revenues over expenditures, you had just over $1 million pretty much in what we would call like a net profit. This is up about 600,000 from the previous year, which means you just had a little bit more money come in than you thought. And then as you can see in the variance column, there were no deficiencies. There were no issues with something being over budget. Any questions on any of that?
Just have a question on revenues, current year property tax. We passed a 5% increase prior year, and yet our actual collection is down. Did we have more go into redemptions or upcoming redemptions, or what? Any idea? Anybody got any idea why property tax collections would have gone down with the 5% increase in the current?
Where are you showing that, Mary?
Page 52, top line.
That's the legislative.
Page 52.
Page 50.
Oh, how much
Budget revenues.
Current year property taxes. It just seemed, and I don't know if people went delinquent and will recover those in redemptions this next year or what. That just
So
seems
it's
weird to me.
showing a decrease just from your final budget. I don't know if this was actually a decrease compared to last year's numbers.
So what's the original column? Is that,
That's the original budget.
was that what the proposed budget was, or I guess I'm a little,
Yeah, so the original budget is the one that you do pretty much.
the
Or the
tentative
year
one that we have.
starts.
Okay, so Mayor, that makes sense. So the reason why it went down from that. Oh, you're looking at, sorry, we're looking at two different numbers.
Yeah, so
Maybe they can look at that and then that's. maybe
yeah,
a question.
and I can maybe even send you an email with the actual numbers from last year. It just wasn't a big enough difference for me to mention it here. All the other ones were like very high where I didn't have it in this one.
Yeah, this is just variance between
The
final
final
budget
budget and the
actual, not previous year.
yeah, previous year, I just have written numbers here on my tabs. So that's the reason why I don't have it.
That'd be a good number to have though, because we supposedly had more homes putting into that fund, which would.
Yeah, the increase should have accommodated the new growth, and then, I mean, it was a very minor increase, but
5%.
hopefully
Probably 890 was just a guess.
counter some of the
Final, but-
inflation.
Okay, fine. Great. Thank you.
Pretty
Sorry.
close guess based on actual.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Be an interesting trend line for sure, though.
I will make note to always have that number for you for years to come.
Just
So
curious.
then you can know.
Well, we can provide it. So
That's
thank
fine.
you. Yeah.
Okay, so just a couple more pages. So we're gonna flip back towards the beginning on page 16. So I went through all of the general fund revenues and expenditures. So I would just like to mention a couple more of the governmental funds. If you're looking at the page, you can see that there's a roads column, an equipment column, RDA, and then other governmental funds. The other governmental funds are your city hall and parks. So the only things I would like to mention here is down kind of in the expenditures in the capital outlay section. Just a couple of decreases in the equipments column in public works. There was a decrease of 450,000. This is because the shop was finished in the previous year. So it's not an expenditure anymore that we're recognizing for capital outlays. And then another one in other governmental funds, the Parks and Rec, it went down by 172,000. This is just because there's more engineering going on than actual like construction and that kind of stuff. And then the net changes. So towards the beginning or towards the end of the page, there's this section called net change in fund balances. I just want to point out that they're all positive. So there's all just a little bit of a profit in all of them. This helps, for future funds or anything that you might need to do in these funds. It's just money that you have there to be able to do projects. So if you flip 2 pages forward to page 14, there's a couple of things here I'd just like to mention. Overall, for all of the funds, cash went up, which means you just have a little bit more in your bank accounts. And then as you can see, there's a fund balances section. As you can see, it's noting different restricteds, which just means like Class C roads, that amount is restricted for specifically that, as well as transportation tax, redevelopment, city hall, all of those are very specific for those. And then the other ones are just being assigned for those amounts in equipment and roads and sidewalks. And then as you can see, there's at the bottom unassigned amounts in general and in roads that you can have pretty much free will to be able to do with. And then overall, just fund balances are up for you to be able to do future projects with. There's just a couple more pages I would like to go over. So if you flip to page 19. So these are all of your quote unquote business funds. There's very few things I would like to mention with these because they're all pretty much steady and consistent from the previous year, pretty comparable. Yet again, there's an overall increase in revenues, not huge jumps, but just a little bit. And then in the operating expenses, the lease line you can see is all zeroed out. As I mentioned, there's different ways that we're recognizing leases now. So that's the reason why they're all zeroed there. And then overall, towards the bottom, the net change in position is yet again all positive. So you all have an income coming in for all of those different funds. If you flip to the page before on page 18. Yet again, I would just like to point out at the bottom some restricted amounts in net position. Yet again, you just have the restricted for impact fees, as you all know, and then the net investment in capital assets. So this is just a matching number to the number of the assets that you have in these funds. Any questions on any of that? No? Okay.
Back on 19, for
Yeah.
example, of the water fund, we have 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And balance after everything's said and done. That's sitting in our enterprise fund for the water department.
Mm-hmm.
More than I thought we had, honestly.
I'm a little I guess I need a little less on this, but this is an audit of that ended in.
Is that just that's the value of the system?
Yeah.
So 1 million, 3 million, 3.
Yeah, so if you're looking at page 18 in the water fund, kind of the free money that you have to do stuff with is the unrestricted down at the bottom. The unrestricted amount, yeah, on page 18, water fund, all the way at the bottom, unrestricted, that 3 million is kind of the extra play money that you.
7 million's capital assets. Yeah.
Yes. 7 million in infrastructure, 3 million to be able to fix things, pay things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Who?
So the balance in the water fund, a large portion of that going towards the reservoir that we are going to be building. Yeah, it's in water. Uh-huh.
It's a capital project in water.
And then what are we?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's not something that's been done yet.
And it is, yeah, it's important to note, and I know it gets messy, but this is the last fiscal year's budget. So some of these funds may have already been appropriated in the current.
We already spent our money? We're just getting.
I didn't spend the money. You all approved the budget.
Yes,
I mean, I didn't.
we are almost 6 months past this, so I guarantee you.
We're getting information 6 months after the fact?
That's how audits work.
That was kind of my question. So this is previous year. We ended June of 2022.
I mean, it's still very important context.
But-
It's just not.
But the money you're saying is in addition to that. I mean, we would have known about that already in the budget. Are we
Yeah.
saying?
A lot of, I mean, there were
Saying-
guesses back then. It wasn't.
Yeah.
final
So
audit.
what we could do is kind of
Reclassified some
put
things.
them together and see what those actuals are. I mean, that's something that we could do for you from.
And to be honest, we always come out better than Laurie guesses. She's very conservative, and that is great. That's the way we like it. I would rather her be conservative as us do better than her be too overly optimistic and us come back and go, oh, we really didn't have all that. So that's.
Does a great job. There's only one more thing,
Okay.
the leases that I would like to mention. So if you go to page 37. So the state decided to, well, I guess it's not the state, the government, federal, decided to love us auditors and make us completely change the way that leases were being recognized. So it's taken a lot of work for us to be able to implement these. So as you can see, the bottom chart on this page is just a slight example of how we're now recognizing leases. We have to have them separated out per lease. We have to recognize them separately as assets. If they are a certain materiality of your budget, we actually put them on as capital assets. Otherwise, we don't. It's very complicated and lovely and everything. But these are the leases that you had at year end from 2019, 20, 21, and 22. It kind of gives you an idea of your rates, your payment amounts, and then also the ending balance at the end of the fiscal year. So kind of how much you're expecting to pay if you continue doing these leases.
A lot of 5-year terms are the lowest.
Yes. Yes. And then if you flip to the next page, this kind of gives a breakout of things. So the ones that have interest are recognized in a different way than the ones that don't. And that's just something that has to do with the leasing laws and everything, financing leases versus operating leases. We're still in a learning process of this. So it's fun and interesting, but that's the reason why sometimes it takes a little bit longer audit wise to get these done, because the government likes us to do more for less, So any questions about anything that I've gone over?
Where's the bond balances?
The bond balances, they are on the next page. So you actually are almost done with your one that was in 12. That one will be paid off in this next the fiscal year that we're in right now.
Which one is that for? Is that for? Well,
2012.
19 was for Hellswell, right?
We refinanced one of those.
I would think the Hellswell would still be the 750,000. I wonder what the other one was
We can research that for you if that helps.
Happened in
It's
12.
only come down, but I guess it's only been 2 years, right?
Wouldn't that be Hellswell, or is that the one that was over $1 million?
We'd have to look, yeah.
Just for information, it'd be nice to know what we bonded for. That'd be great. I know Hellswell was one of them. That we did a bond, but I don't know. The other one's probably before my time. I don't know.
I was before me too, so.
That was a refinance on on 2019, so. Okay, awesome. Is that it?
Everything.
So Laurie, do you prepare the MD&A? Who does? You guys? Okay.
They do a
Yes,
great
I've-
job for us and
I've
we
done this
appreciate
whole packet here.
all in your free time. No, we appreciate all that your group does for us each year and the thoroughness of the audit. I know they're consistently requesting lots of documentation and appreciate Laurie for providing all of that and kind of helping to coordinate. It's a huge effort and it's important and valuable and appreciate all the work that goes into it.
Thank you very much, Laurie, and all the staff, Laurie, Heather, everybody, even the council. The council contributes to us having this clean audit, not only is it a clean audit, but it shows that we're in good shape as a city. No concerns, it's a good, strong financial and it takes everybody to make that happen. So appreciate it all.
What do you, but that's, and so they're helpful too, Dave.
Yes. Thank you, Katie.
No problem.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. Hey, it doesn't require action, right? I don't think so. Item 4 is the escrow agreement, discussion possible action to consider approving the escrow agreement for Peakview Plazas PUD located approximately 400 west, 100 north. Amy.
Hey, this will be a short presentation, but we're excited to see Peakview wrapping up and getting recorded. And so this is the escrow agreement, and they've actually done quite a bit of improvements since the last time we discussed an agreement for their project. And so the total bill has been reduced and they've requested to escrow the funds. And so that's the agreement before you. It's the standard form that you're used to. The amount has been reduced since we discussed this prior because they've completed some of the work. So I don't know if there's any questions.
So this was we were going to go a different direction in this, right?
And so we looked at another option with the developer, but ultimately this was their preferred option.
Okay, then yeah, whatever option they'd like. That's good. I'm glad to see that project moving ahead.
Oh, it's exciting. Really
All right,
exciting.
any questions? Does Sarah got a question up there?
She said no, I think. Oh, I don't know.
Dan's still there? You're good? All right. Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a
thumbs up.
motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this escrow agreement for the Peakview Plaza PUD with the location listed on item number 4.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Gibson, second by Marriott, because of the time delay, you were too slow. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Wow.
Who's that squeaker?
Yeah.
Sarah. Who's coming in down there? Anybody good?
Yeah, we've got good people.
Awesome.
Excited for the restaurant.
Just the transfer board.
You want to get on the mic if you don't mind? Sorry, just so the council members that are in.
Yeah, Marco's Pizza, Menchie's, Roxbury, Soda Mix.
I didn't know there was a soda place. Well, where went my
Yeah,
paycheck?
They're everywhere, right? And then Orange Theory, Fitness, The Bird, did I say that? And Sun, we're gonna take them from food truck to.
Oh,
It'll be their
restaurant.
first box
Oh,
store.
that's dangerous.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we have right now. A lot more coming.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Dave. Have a great night.
Item 5, consolidated fee schedule. Discussion possible action to consider amending consolidated fee schedule. A is to eliminate the requirements to maintain a credit balance of 1,000 for accounts receivables, deposit accounts. And should we take them one at a time? Should we do that one? 5A first?
All of the same resolution.
Oh, okay. And B is address fees for boundary adjustments to reflect actual costs, resolution 2022-W. Laurie,
I'm actually going to present.
Amy,
Just taking over this meeting. No.
take it.
So the first item, in kind of jumping in, and sometimes, you know, when you have transition, it's hard, but it's also good because it helps teach you different things. And looking at accounts receivable and some of the balances, it really is difficult to try to maintain this $1,000 at all times. And sometimes bills come in, you know, $3,000 or $5,000. And so ultimately the developers pay the bills in order to move forward and progress with the city. And so really the $1,000 just seems a little bit arbitrary and not very helpful, and more of a management thing on the staff end, because at the end of the day, the bills that come are going to need to be paid regardless. So I guess that's the proposal for the elimination of that. And with the second item, yes, and so we don't currently have a lot established with boundary adjustments, but we have a proposal coming in and would like to have fees set that reflect the actual costs for that, because I mean, we could throw it into a different planning category, but it really isn't truly reflective of what is being proposed. And so we'd like to have that in place before we have an item before us for consideration on that.
That makes sense.
Do those costs vary by action or by the individual things? I mean, are they?
So typically the only varying cost, and I've kind of gone back and forth on whether or not we'd like to look at a modification proposal for you all to consider, is with the postage. And right now the developers, we ask them to bring in something with basically the pre-posted envelopes, so that whatever varying costs, depending on the number of those required, are just, I mean, basically hit with that in noticing. Otherwise, it's mainly the staff time and that.
I like the actual cost way because, I mean, it could, typically they're not that far off, but we ought to be recovering at least the actual costs.
Mhm.
So if you set a fixed amount, you might go over that and
I
you
mean, if
lose
they, if
money.
they notice, I mean, would it be 10 people or 100 people? I mean, how many does a typical notice?
Well, and the interesting thing with the boundary adjustment, and we're going to be utilizing the city's newsletter, I believe, because it requires a citywide notice. And so, but it just kind of depends. We usually notice affected entities. So that's like Rocky Mountain Power, some of the different Weber County, other type organizations.
I have no problem with the actual cost. I mean, we don't want to give it away unless we're making money on it, which.
Yeah, no, it's just mainly to cover what the cost would be
I just
for it.
wondered how much. it
And to
varies.
be fair, because and the tricky thing with this one is it's a little bit muddied in state code. So we're trying to work with the ombudsman's office to clarify the process and steps. It's just a little bit of jumping through hoops to figure it out.
Will we have that number right away? I mean, but at what point do they pay that fee? You know, whether you would put something in and we say, well, that I think will be X amount, or when is that?
Set up an account.
And whatever the actual
So
cost.
they won't know up front what it's gonna cost.
They'll know we'll bill them the actual.
Which would you say?
And I think once we clarify the process more cleanly,
Our city boundary. We approved a kind of a,
and
what was it called? The annexation policy a few months ago. And it's just moving forward now. So yeah, we're kind of new at this. So we'll but we want to at least,
Have something. I know, I get it.
after we do this first process, maybe we could revisit it or see how it went. And
Where's that one in here though? The boundary
so it's under section
Section
2 in
2.
the resolution.
right to the
And
very
it just
bottom.
says to reflect the reimbursement of the actual costs of the city.
Okay.
And I think obviously, you know, we'll try to evaluate and give them as close of a,
Yeah.
you know, estimate as we can, but we just, it's a newer process. We're not.
And we can
exactly sure.
revisit it if it needs to be, if that.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve both 5A and 5B as stated to
So resolution 2022.
resolution 2022-W.
I'll second the motion. Okay, motion by Gibson, second by Marriott to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? Roll call.
So
vote.
there was a question from Councilmember Yuri. They have. That was clear back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what Dave's thing. Yes, he indicated they had them under contract.
And she can't hear me, but what did I say to tell Sarah?
I think Laurie just said that it would be actual costs and we'd require them to reimburse us after the cost occurred.
I think Laurie said, Steve, you've said enough.
Steve is a wonderful council member.
Be quiet and let's get on with the meeting. I believe that's what.
All right, roll call vote. Arrington,
Yes.
Gibson, Marriott.
Yes.
Bill's not here. Yuri. Yes. Okay, wonderful. Motion carries. One absent. Item 6 is the closed meeting consideration for a closed meeting pursuant to the one that's to discuss real estate. Fine.
Property acquisition.
Property acquisition, thank you. That entertain a motion to go into closed.
So moved.
Motion by Marriott, second by Gibson to go into a closed meeting. Is that going to be roll call also?
Yes.
Arrington,
Yes.
Yuri. That was a thumbs up from Yuri. Marriott, Gibson, and Phil's excused. All right, so we're in a closed meeting, so we need to terminate